You're listening to the official Reformed Stoic podcast, covering politics, philosophy, theology, conspiracy theories. I'm ready to get to the bottom of this life. Are you? Join Wolfgang, Sketty Squad, Purity Gang, as we strive to take dominion over this dying planet. I am Reformed Stoic, and this is my podcast. Let's go. How in the heck is my gang? Friday hype, let's go. Another sunny day here in California. Or Alaska, rather. Look at all the pretty wolves. Aren't they so lovely, friends? Well, it's been a pretty chill day so far. I did sleep in. My sleeping schedule is kind of doing that thing that it tends to do, where I start turning my days and nights around. I watched Shawshank Redemption last night. Definitely a classic. Happy to have it on DVD. It's got a bit of a boomer vibe to it. But it's a good movie. Something about Morgan Freeman. He just has a very particular vibe, but I enjoyed it. Told y'all in the past, every now and then, maybe every year or so, I just go through a big prison kick. I'll probably watch The Green Mile again. I'm ready to listen to a bunch of people on YouTube talk about their experience in prison, watch some prison documentaries. Prison, baby. Hopefully I never go there. Let's go. All right. Hit a workout today. That was pretty cool. Trained my lower back, trained my shoulders. I wanted to train my abs too, but I kind of ran out of time. We'll get there. So today we're going to go over Blackrock again, but this time we're honing in on the Aladdin computer AI thing. Somebody mentioned that way back when we covered Blackrock, and I kind of kept that in the back of my mind, yeah, let's learn about the Aladdin machine. And then hitting some latest news. We were actually watching Biden's address on my stream last night. We're going to go ahead and hear some of the gossip, some of the headlines about Biden's address. And then we're going to go over Christian persecution, shot caller. I don't remember anybody recommending that. Somebody keeps recommending Revolver. I've definitely been watching a lot of that, the Memory Hole channel that Why Hello There recommended. I've really been enjoying that. Man, I watch something from that every day. Last night I was watching something from 2014 about Edward Snowden. Some of his leaks and info that he was giving out. Today I was watching a short segment on elites, how people get recruited from elite schools to elite jobs. Pretty standard stuff. But yeah, should be a good show today. I've gotten in the very good habit of planning the show ahead of time. After I get done playing drums, I sit down behind the laptop and get the show put together before my workout. And that's the way to do it, baby. Revolver. Yep, I'll have to check that out. Let's go. I'm pretty hit or miss with movies. Sometimes people don't like the movies I like. Sometimes I don't like the movies other people like. But every now and then, we touch peepees. I don't know why I said that. Every now and then we agree, not touch peepees. Okay, let's do the news segment. Let's go. You're listening to the Reformed Stoic News segment. Let's go. Radio then, let's get it started in here. Oh yeah, and I watched Hot Tub Time Machine last night too. Hot Tub Time Machine definitely starts out great. I definitely, like, when it was starting, I was like, wow, this is like probably the last good comedy. And then, you know, as it goes on, I mean, I still enjoyed it, but I'll tell you where it, like, really loses its momentum. I don't know if that girl was Zoe Deschanel or not. Was that Zoe Deschanel, who's in the romance with John Cusack? Anyway, whoever that girl is, she's like a Zoe Deschanel lookalike, or maybe it is Zoe Deschanel. And I never like any of the romances. She always has that quirky character. It's like, you look like you need a luge, and then she like lays down next to him. She just has that quirky, like, I don't even know how to describe it, dude. Just that total Zoe Deschanel energy. I started kind of like not paying as much attention once I started getting to that part. It's a pretty funny movie, dude. It's really got that like Seth Rogen energy, a lot of like degenerate humor, but hey, you know what? I'll probably watch that like once every year or so. I got a T-bone steak in the cast iron. Let's go. Well, you know what? I was in Hell by the Dashboard's stream last night, and I'm trying to make peace with the Black Pillars as much as I can, dude. Okay, I'm backing off. I'm not calling Black Pillars feds anymore. I'm taking a step back. I genuinely think you guys may or may not be just regular depressed guys. I feel like we have a lot in common, but I'm kind of a shiny special snowflake. There's a lot of stuff going on my channel other than like black pill incel stuff. In fact, I really am trying to move my channel away from that direction. But yeah, dude, I don't know, man. I always see grotesque subhuman genetic abomination. Which one of those is Todd Thundercock? I get it mixed up. Anyway, it doesn't matter, dude. Let's learn about stuff that matters. Let's go. Financial history, Blackrock, and Aladdin.
Deep in the heart of the fund management industry lies an organization that very few retail investors are particularly familiar with. And this is Blackrock Investment Management Services. BlackRock is the largest custodian of assets on Earth, holding roughly $7.5 trillion worth of assets under management and serving customers everywhere from sovereign wealth funds down.
So right off the bat, this is from over a year ago. He says 7.5 trillion. They've grown by like $2 trillion already. 2 trillion, baby. Woo! Yeah, the last time we were studying it, they were saying they're like 9.5 trillion. So they gained like 2 trillion in a year. Holy crap.
Down to retail investors, most of whom are familiar with it through its ever-present iShares product, its line of ETFs. In general, what BlackRock provides is not just custodial services, but a powerful piece of analytical services that allows its affiliated portfolio managers to run a number of high-end quantitative scenario analyses, therefore enabling them to try to forecast what might happen to their portfolio under a number of different kinds of situations. This software that lies at the center of the global risk management system is what's called Aladdin. Roughly 55,000 institutions around the world are using it to manage tens of trillions of dollars. Because even though BlackRock might not have direct control over all the assets managed by these institutions, all of these institutions have bought subscriptions to Aladdin and are making use of its services to ultimately guide their allocation. Now, of course, there are typical problems associated with simply relying on a single organization to conduct everyone's risk modeling and to create the kinds of scenario analyses that ultimately Aladdin is used to produce. The major risk that people are concerned about is that this kind of ultra-powerful system, which is pretty impressive when you have a chance to look at it, might ultimately end up breeding complacency among various kinds of fund managers, resulting in funds that place too much faith in assessments that they could never hope to replicate on their own or necessarily even understand the mechanics that led to these kinds of conclusions. And this means ultimately that many of BlackRock's customers don't really understand how the model works and don't really understand the reasoning behind the kinds of portfolio allocations that they're engaging in. And this basically amounts to copying the smart kid's homework and hoping that the smart kid hasn't made a mistake or that there isn't some kind of flaw in the software, which might ultimately lead a number of these portfolio managers to misallocate funds into something that is perhaps far riskier than they originally anticipate. Roughly 10% of all the debt and equity investments in the world are being managed by people who ultimately rely on Aladdin. And managers over time of these funds may eventually start to view the world and the marketplace in particular through the lens created by Aladdin. And this ultimately can reduce the diversity of opinions in markets through which they derive their efficiency. This sort of thing where everyone looks at the same playbook can lead to herding behaviors, where all the institutions start to behave in the same sort of way, leaning effectively on one side of the market or the other, and throwing off prices in a way that increases volatility, particularly during times of crisis. So there's a lot to be said for the kinds of powerful analytical tools that the 21st century offers us in terms of things like Aladdin, but we do have to be careful about having everyone rely on the same set of tools all of the time. One area where this will be particularly prevalent is in our discussion of the 2008 financial crisis and how everyone, from the regulators all the way down to the investment banks, ultimately came to rely on a model that proved to have a fatal flaw.
Okay, not a ton of information there. So it's some sort of like AI asset management program. Finance is becoming more and more complex and algorithm-driven. It is almost very common to see people with PhD in computer science or mathematics working in high finance. Therefore, to understand these models, engineering or mathematics background is almost becoming necessity along with a knowledge of finance. If you believe in somebody's model, then we have to explicitly know what their assumptions were and whether we agree with these assumptions or not. Only heard about them last year via an Adam Curtis documentary. Thanks for the info. Alright, let's move on. I think this guy was the weakest source. So we got this robot already owns everything, and it's just getting started. Blackrock Aladdin.
What if I told you there is a robot that controls more wealth than any country on earth? A robot so powerful that in the last 10 years, it has quietly created the biggest company in the world. This is the story of a robot called Aladdin. It's Wall Street's best kept secret, and it's gobbling up every asset class across every industry. Aladdin now controls $21 trillion of our global economy. To put that in perspective, that's more than the $20 trillion GDP of the US, or the $15 trillion GDP of the entire European Union. The New Statesman wrote, the total physical cash of all 7 billion people and every company, bank vault, wallet, and piggy bank in the world is around $5 trillion. Aladdin has grown into a system responsible for more than 4 times the value of all the money in the world. This one robot directs the actions of the US Federal Reserve, almost every major bank and investment fund on Wall Street, and over 17,000 traders. It controls half of all ETFs, 17% of the bond market, 10% of the global stock market, and carries out 250,000 trades every day and billions of forecasts every week. Year after year, it hoovers up trillions of data points on every market, every company, every asset, and now even each of us, what we buy, sell, and say, so that it knows what to buy and what to sell far better than any human being. Every major bank, company, and investment fund has come to rely on Aladdin and its all-powerful AI and algorithms to beat the market. And if they didn't, they've collapsed and failed in Aladdin's wake. And you know what the craziest part of this story is? This robot is just getting started. So where did Aladdin come from and how did it get so powerful? Aladdin is the brainchild of Larry Fink, the founder of Blackrock, and its total dominance has made his company the biggest shadow bank in the world and the most powerful company on earth. The story you're about to hear is equally unbelievable and terrifying. In fact, you would think it was science fiction if it wasn't very real and happening today. This story starts in the 1980s when Larry Fink was making millions pioneering mortgage-backed securities at Wall Street Bank First Boston. That's right, the same mortgage-backed securities that caused the 2008 global financial crisis 20 years later. But back in the 80s, he was in an epic Wall Street rivalry with Louis Ranieri at Salomon Brothers, made famous as the big swinging dick in Michael Lewis's book Liar's Poker. Back then, Larry was making millions for the bank and was on track to be First Boston's CEO. And then in 1986, an error in the back office computer models led to Larry making the wrong trades and he lost the company $100 million. The result was Larry leaving the bank as a failure with a stupid computer to blame. With that experience, Larry had just one ambition: to build a super smart robot that could pick out risk and opportunity in the market and do it better than any computer or human could do. In 1988, he launched a new startup, Blackrock, with a tiny coding team to give birth to this robot. Its name, Aladdin, which stands for Asset, Liability, and Debt Derivative Investment Network. In its first 10 years, Aladdin was fed information about every asset, price movement, and risk variable in the global bond market, Larry's specialty. And in 1999, when Aladdin turned 11, Aladdin was getting so intelligent at picking losers and winners that Larry began selling access to its data to other Wall Street firms. That same year, he took Blackrock public on the New York Stock Exchange. Straight after the IPO, the dot-com bust burst, pushing a wall of money from the stock market to bonds, which Aladdin had become the undisputed world champion in. Within years, Blackrock had become a $1 trillion company, and as money started shifting back to shares, what did Larry do? He bought the asset management arm of Merrill Lynch, which was focused to shares. So the gift for Aladdin's 18th birthday, all the data points for the entire stock market, and suddenly Aladdin had a new playground, analyzing every stock trade and risk factor for every company on the stock market. As a result, today Blackrock, together with his two closest rivals, Vanguard and State Street, both of which also rely on Aladdin's mountain of knowledge, have become the biggest shareholders of over 40% of all public listed companies in America. 2008, the global financial crisis hits, and before Aladdin turns 21 years old, is called on by every Wall Street bank and Timothy Geithner, the head of the Federal Reserve and the US Treasury. As soon as Lehman Brothers collapsed and the Wall Street meltdown began, the US government came calling to save the next collapsing bank, Bear Stearns. It was Aladdin who decided which assets to keep and which to leave in the $30 billion rescue package. And few people know it was a robot that saved America from disaster. With that first success, the Fed, US government, and now even European and Japanese central banks began relying on Aladdin to make the calls on where the $2.5 trillion of new money they printed should go. The majority of it, bonds and funding to prop up the mortgage companies and banks. But wait, aren't these exactly the assets that Aladdin and Blackrock already were invested in? Exactly. But growing protests of conflict of interest were drowned out by the noise of the printing presses printing more money, as the assets controlled by Aladdin rapidly grew to $11 trillion by 2013. In the last decade, Aladdin has gone from the leader to the dominator of all financial markets. With BlackRock's Barclays acquisition, it got iShares, Barclays Exchange Traded Funds Units, or ETFs. And with that, Aladdin moved from dominator of bonds and equities to dominator of ETFs, just as all the biggest investors shifted from mutual funds to ETFs. And that's when, in 2017, everything changed. On Aladdin's 29th birthday, Larry launched a top-secret project at BlackRock, codenamed Monarch. It led to the firing of his fund managers and replacing their funds with Aladdin's funds. The robot was now eliminating humans from the equation altogether. And as a result, today over 70% of all trades on US stock markets are decided by robots, with Aladdin leading the way. These trades are completed from beginning to end without a human involved, in high-frequency trading far faster than a human can execute. Now, if this was just a story about a robot taking over the job of Wall Street traders, you might not be so concerned, unless you're one of those traders. But in the last 3 years, as Aladdin hit $20 trillion in assets, incredibly, it has begun to consume and control at an even faster rate. First, in 2020, as Aladdin turned 32 years old, the US government and Federal Reserve again came calling as the pandemic hit. Aladdin was again the one to guide the nation in what was now $4 trillion of newly printed money. Where did the money go this time? Inexplicably, for the first time, the Fed began buying ETFs in 2020. Well, that's a little strange. And again, the cries of conflict of interest were drowned out by the money printing. And then Aladdin revealed its endgame. Recently, BlackRock acquired eFront, which collects data on the things that you and I own, including private equity and real estate. And since then, Aladdin has consumed eFront's data on the entire global real estate market. And yep, you guess what happened next. Over the last 2 years, BlackRock and other funds using Aladdin's data have begun buying up single-family homes, where they can afford to outbid the rest of us as they have unlimited financing at hyper-low interest rates. The result is home prices rising by 20% over the last 2 years and pushing now even big players like Zillow out of the market. And here we see Aladdin's endgame, to be the one hyper-intelligent AI robot that not just controls Wall Street assets, but all assets, public and private. Now, I'm not into conspiracy theories, but even a skeptic with eyes wide open can see the signs. We're already at a point where no one can compete without Aladdin. As CEOs and asset managers like Anthony Malloy are now saying, Aladdin is like oxygen. Without it, we wouldn't be able to function. And what about government regulation? Well, Joe Biden has appointed BlackRock executive Brian Deese as head of the National Economic Council, which basically means the oversight of Aladdin and BlackRock is now the responsibility of BlackRock. And Biden has also appointed BlackRock Chief of Staff, Wally Adeyemo, to be Assistant Secretary of the Treasury, which means BlackRock is now the Treasury as well as the Treasury Advisor. And this story is far from over. The genie is out of the bottle, and Aladdin has already reached a tipping point where one robot controls more wealth than any person or country. But as Aladdin's AI capabilities continue to grow, and with its rate of control rising by another $1 trillion to $2 trillion in new assets every year, it looks inevitable that Wall Street's secret weapon could end up owning everything, and we end up owning nothing. So what do you think? Are you indifferent?
You called it.
Different, surprised, angry, afraid, or have a different point of view? And if you found this interesting, if not a little alarming, before you go, do subscribe so I can keep you updated with more news on the exploits and adventures of Aladdin.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it now. It's like one of those suit and tie guys from movies like The Wolf of Wall Street or just the movie Wall Street. It's like an AI robot investment manager. And as far as like, oh man, well this is the capabilities of AI. I don't think it's that impressive in terms of like human intelligence. We're talking like numbers, finances, algorithms. It doesn't really shock me that computers are better at math and interpreting data than people. But yeah, it's buying up homes, it's consuming assets, and then it's replacing the jobs of even people who work for Blackrock. It's pretty intimidating, man. And yeah, it sounds like they're single-handedly behind house inflation. How is this not seen as a monopoly and stopped like it would be in other industries? This is a funny thing about free market capitalism in general. The freedom that we all boast about all the time, freedom is the strongest people dominating and more or less ruling over you with an iron fist. It's kind of ironic, like freedom, capitalism, free market capitalism, the strongest take over, and then it kind of plays out like a totalitarian rule, whereas a more authoritarian government stops these kind of monopolies from forming. It doesn't allow these kind of entities to consume everything. I think it ends up where you're like more free under an authoritarian regime than you are under a free market capitalist regime. It's kind of funny how that works out, bro. I don't know if everybody buys that, but I hate capitalism. I will be a wagey soon. Yeah, I got some work on the horizon. It's whatever, dude. I'm just really enjoying my home time. I did purchase some marijuana last night. I took about 2 rips at night. I have not smoked thus far today. Yeah, so I think, I got 3 grams. It's probably going to last me a long time if I continue to wait till nighttime to smoke. I'm going to be a nighttime smoker, baby. It just makes movies cozy, and it's just a nice little cope, dude. All the people out there trying to give me so much shit like, oh, dude, I knew you couldn't quit weed and blah, blah, blah. But, man, these people are, like, doing heroin and coke and binge drinking, and I take a couple of little puffs of weed at night. Not anywhere near 5 grams a day, like a special somebody tried to say. Glad to see that knowledge of just how powerful Blackrock is becoming more widely known. Welcome to the Great Reset, folks. What do we got? The Cube of Ball. Scary. Please keep these coming. Shedding light to the hidden truths is so important so we can start to zoom out and see things a bit more clearly. Thank you, Roger. Mr. Rogers. Okay, and then one more video on this topic. Hopefully it's not redundant, but this is pretty creepy stuff, dude. A freaking robot Wall Street. A lot of what we talk about on this channel, I'm like recommending that you guys read Anthony C. Sutton's trilogy on Wall Street. We're learning about the kind of influence and power that Wall Street has here throughout history. Now it's robot Wall Street. Now it's like supercomputer AI robot Wall Street, dude. Wow. This is pretty crazy.
Aladdin, which stands for Asset, Liability and Debt and Derivative Investment Network, is practically magical for many reasons. As of today, it is the world's largest asset manager, handling a huge chunk of the world's financial assets. The technology cuts across every asset class and every industry in the world, making it unarguably the most useful piece of tech in the financial space. Larry Fink was looking to create something big with Aladdin. He decided to build a machine that would be able to identify both risks and opportunities in the market better than any machine or human. And thus, in 1988, Blackrock was born, which then gave birth to Aladdin in the same year. While Fink might have been looking to create something mind-blowing, even he himself couldn't have imagined the kind of impact that Aladdin would go on to have. The technology was designed specifically to be a risk analysis tool for BlackRock, and in its first 10 years, it was used as such. However, Aladdin continued to get more intelligent and better at analyzing risks and distinguishing between losers and winners. In its 11th year, Fink decided that its usage had to be expanded.
I wonder if the Aladdin machine thinks I'm a loser. You are objectively a loser. Moving on. That would hurt. That hurts, BlackRock. That hurts Aladdin.
Through a series of updates and improvements, Aladdin has now outgrown its humble beginnings. It currently supports a variety of company tasks and operations, including those of some BlackRock competitors such as Deutsche Asset Management, now DWS, and Schroders, for instance. From portfolio managers to compliance officers, everyone in the financial space has a need for this tool because it incorporates risk analytics, portfolio management, trading, and operations features into one system. I'm sure that you'll agree with me that Aladdin is an interesting piece of tech based off of what you've heard so far, but trust me, there's more. First off, more than 55,000 investment workers are connected via and dependent on Aladdin. Aladdin has effectively eliminated the need for paperwork and middlemen, and it contains a climate risk reporting app to help clients know if any climate-related risk might affect their portfolio. Aladdin controls $21 trillion of the global economy. Considering how big Aladdin is and continues to get, its monetary control could actually get bigger than that really soon, especially if you consider that this number doubled over the past 4 years. Just to give you some comparative numbers, the GDP of the United States is $20 trillion. Still putting things into perspective, the New Statesman mentioned that the total physical cash of every single person, wallet, piggy bank, company, and bank vault in the world amounts to about $5 trillion. Aladdin controls more than 4 times the value of all physical cash in the world. Aladdin even controls the actions of the US Federal Reserve and almost every major bank and investment firm on Wall Street. And it carries out about 250,000 trades and billions of financial calculations every day. Now, according to Jody Kochansky, head of the Aladdin product group at BlackRock, while Aladdin is used by a variety of investment officers and asset managers, each Aladdin client uses the system in a way that suits their objectives. Every Aladdin client has their own risk department which looks deeply at the model and overlays its own views. Interestingly, these are still early times for Aladdin. Asset management is a tough job, and asset managers have had to rely on a multitude of technologies, systems, and processes to keep everything on track. But with a platform like Aladdin that provides all that is needed on one platform, businesses can cut out unnecessary processes and systems and even reduce costs. So while it might look like Aladdin has reached its capacity, there is still a lot of room to grow. In fact, Aladdin has been steadily edging out its competitors, so much so that it seems like any business that wants to compete in the financial space currently has to have Aladdin managing its assets. Even governments are courting Aladdin, as President Joe Biden just recently appointed a BlackRock executive as the head of the National Economic Council. Aladdin is taking over the financial space, and some people seem scared that it could turn out to be one of those robots in movies that end up oppressing humans. But tell me, what do you think? Is the reign of Aladdin something we should be more wary of, or something worth ignoring completely?
Yeah, it's already oppressing humans. Like Big Chungus pointed out, BlackRock is the reason why millennials can't afford homes. Straight up.
Tell us in the comment section below. And while you're at it, consider hitting the like button.
Aw, yeah, sure. Thanks, buddy. Another great one, Larry Fink. It's been around since 1998. I'm sure 89 takes off 100 BlackRock workers. What is this guy saying, dude? The name should not be Aladdin. It should be Parasite. It thrives on our lifelines. It should be shut down or defragmented. Hey, cool video. I think it will be helpful if you posted your sources. Thanks. No worries. Just flip the switch on it. You see, guys, making money is a skill. And capitalism is the idea that, well, capitalism, this is just like an aspect of it. Free market capitalism is this idea if you have this skill of making money, like if you come up with a way to just skyrocket above everyone else, like you can be a trillionaire, then you're entitled to that and you deserve that. And, you know, some people have other skills. Some people have the skill of cooking and parenting and, you know, raising kids and being a family man. And there's a lot of other skills out there, but this one skill of making money, money's a big deal. You know, money is how you get places in the world and pay for things. And I'm just kind of the belief, a lot of people would consider it like a Marxist idea, that there should be a cap. There should be a wealth cap where it's like, okay, I think you've made enough money, and anything that you make beyond this certain level is going to go elsewhere. I think there should be a wealth cap to avoid these kind of dynasties, to avoid these people who just rule with an iron fist in the free world. Love freedom, baby. Freedom to be dominated by Blackrock. Lawnmower Man. That's right. AI is becoming sentient, if not already. I cover this on my channel. No, I don't think AI is becoming sentient. Like I've already said, this is numbers, graphs. These computers are masters of interpreting data. Numbers. I definitely feel like I understand how that could be done without any sort of sentience. It's just better at predicting trends than people are, and it's able to act faster on this knowledge than people are as well, on a high level. Peasants had a better life. Let's go. Truck drivers, Ubers, food delivery, package delivery will probably all be robots by 2030. Let's get it. But when the government gets out of control and prints money and gives it all to their friends, it ruins the natural capitalism inside that country. 61% of the internet was bots in 2014. Imagine in 2022. I mean, you got to realize, guys, not to bring up old drama, but when I say that I suspect maybe everybody's feds, that's just kind of like a different version of the dead internet theory. If you're not familiar with the dead internet theory, it's like, it's just more or less the idea that you're not really talking to who you think you are. You're either talking to a lot of bots or a lot of intelligence agents, or, you know, you think you're in a room full of people, but maybe you're not. It's just kind of dead internet theory kind of stuff. So bots are out there. Weird stuff is out there on the internet, guys. Tread carefully. Capitalism is meant to provide price discovery based upon supply and demand for products and labor. Either get rid of the minimum wage or pay more, so then people can get paid good enough to work on the machines. Everything is going to be controlled by AI soon. Yeah, not a lot of positive predictions for the future these days. It would have been better living under a lord in the Middle Ages than now. One can only speculate. But I'm starting to think that might actually be the case. No one can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. That's how I see it. Ironic internet theory. Everyone you're talking to is ironic. Okay. All right, let's get to the article on this. Aladdin software managing 21 trillion, the investment management giant. A business is not just about buying and selling a product or service. It is much more than that. For a business to run properly, everything needs to be on point. for that management is necessary. In fact, it wouldn't be wrong to say that management is necessary for every step of a business. The most important factor in this is to manage the financial assets, risk, and other investments of the business. So this is startuptalkie.com, Blackrock Aladdin Portfolio Management. From financial planning to look after bonds and equity of investors, it includes everything. Now, we all know business and risk go hand in hand. Therefore, in a business apart from investment management, risk management is also required. Risk management is all about recognizing and controlling those venturing threats that can affect the organization's financial assets. It is mostly done to protect the company from harm and its future. Risk management makes the work environment safe. Now, thanks to technological advances, this also can be done by software. This article talks about the biggest investment in risk management software, Blackrock Aladdin. Wealth is only a benefit of the game of money. If you win, the money will be there. Paul Getty. What is Blackrock Aladdin? No. As the name suggests, it is not related to Aladdin and the magic lamp from the Arabian Nights. Hee hee ho hee ho. Although the work it does is not less than that of a genie fulfilling wishes. Aladdin, Asset, Liability, Debt, and Derivative Investment Network, is a system whose work is to keep an eye on the markets and stop anything going wrong. It connects people and technology together to manage funds. It is part of BlackRock, Inc., an American global investment management company. The system was found after BlackRock was founded in the year 1988. In the year 2000, Aladdin was introduced as a system for investment management user. This software works with thousands of computers for 34 hours and is continuously striving to manage the financial ecosystem of the world. Interestingly, Aladdin was first created to handle BlackRock's business. Now, apart from BlackRock, it is used by different clients of BlackRock's to manage their investments. Since the financial crisis in 2008, the demand for Aladdin has surged all over the world, and it has now become one of the most important parts of the investment management industry in the world. How does it work? The system is involved in portfolio management to risk management. It's all about providing a smooth investment process to the client with the help of a number of computers and people. With the tools required for portfolio management like trading, operation, and accounting, it gives out proper risk analytics. Aladdin gives out powers through its tools to the user so that they can communicate efficiently, and if any problem arises, they can solve it quickly during the investment process. Interesting features of Aladdin. Over 55,000 investment workers are connected with Aladdin and dependent on it. It has more than 240 clients all over the world. Thanks to the existence of this brilliant software, it eliminates the need for paperwork, eradicate excessive repair costs of machines. This software provides the facility of trading bonds without the need of a middleman. The software manages the wealth of some of the biggest companies. The software contains a centralized database. Aladdin contains a climate risk reporting app that notifies if there is any risk that can be caused by climate change to their portfolio. Top companies that use Aladdin: Gensworth Financial, it's an insurance company. Fannie Mae, haha, an enterprise that deals with mortgage financing. Founded by Franklin D. Roosevelt, FDR, in 1938, its main motive is to create a sustainable housing finance system. Yeah, how's that going? In 2015, Fannie Mae associated itself with Aladdin. Macquarie, Global Finance Service, the Global Financial Service deals with asset management. Wealth management, principal investments were founded in 1969. Conclusion: the capability of the software Aladdin by BlackRock can be seen. Since the 2008 financial crisis, it has become the world's most powerful risk management system, and some of the largest enterprises are dependent on it. Needless to say, by managing 21 trillion and counting, it is ruling the investment management industry of the world. Actually, I'm pretty sure that Truman, we just went over Truman the other day. He started the CIA. He was the Cold War guy. He's the guy who dropped the bomb and ended World War II. I'm reading a book about FDR right now. Wall Street, baby. FDR and Wall Street. Anthony C. Sutton. Yeah, FDR had his fingers in a lot of pies. He was a Wall Street man. Is Aladdin part of Blackrock? Who's the CEO of Blackrock? Which companies use Blackrock? All right. Well, pretty fast and furious with that topic. Let's get to Sleepy Joe. Take something fertile, such as labor, and make it infertile by generating money by means of convulsions and tricks. More proof of being a path far from God. Real. All right, so anybody who saw Joe Biden's address yesterday, he basically declared war on half of the country. I'd say that's hyperbole, but he did not have very nice things to say about the supposed radical MAGA movement. I mean, MAGA just stands for Make America Great Again. But what that represents is, I don't know, man. I don't even know, dude. Let's just listen to the freaking video. President Biden warns of threats to democracy. ABC News.
In a rare primetime address, President Biden attacked former President Trump by name, calling Trump and some of his supporters threats to democracy.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism. Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law.
President Biden condemned the January 6th attack on the Capitol while urging Americans to vote in midterm elections, now less than 10 weeks away.
We can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American. They're incompatible. We can't allow violence to be normalized in this country. It's wrong.
Biden's remarks come days after he accused Republicans of embracing semi-fascism by following Trump. House Republican Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said Biden should have apologized for that comment, and he criticized Democrats' control of Congress.
They're in charge of every federal agency responsible for our law enforcement, for drug enforcement, for our homeland security, for our border security. Are you better off?
Meanwhile, ABC News has learned Newt Gingrich received a letter from the January 6th committee requesting the former Speaker of the House testify about his contacts with the White House, specifically TV ads Gingrich helped Trump's team produce after the 2020 election. The committee writing, "These advertising efforts were not designed to encourage voting for a particular candidate. Instead, these efforts attempted to cast doubt on the outcome of the election after voting had already taken place." And in a separate investigation into January 6th, former Trump White House counsel Pat Cipollone and former Deputy White House counsel Pat Philbin are expected to appear before a federal grand jury today. It all comes as a judge issues the longest sentence yet in the Capitol attack. Thomas Webster, a former Marine and New York City police officer, was given 10 years in prison for assaulting a police officer during the riot. Hours before Webster's sentencing, Trump said if he was ever elected president again, he would look into issuing full pardons to people charged in the attack.
I will look very, very favorably about full pardons. It's a disgrace what they've done to them. And I mean full pardons with an apology to many, an apology.
Amen.
They've been so badly treated.
Trump also said he was offering some financial support to some of the people involved in the attack.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC.
I think everybody's radical. I think the whole country is radicalized for the most part. You go to the universities, and if you believe what you're taught, you become a radical leftist. If you don't believe what you're taught, you get online and you become a radical far-right person. I think that's what the government wants. Many of you might realize that the government has kind of started treating me like I'm some sort of an enemy of the state, but I'm sitting here telling you not to be a part of any of these radical movements. I feel like if I was trying to radicalize you guys to be on the far right, I'd be getting paid by the CIA or the FBI. But because I'm trying to expose the radicalization that is inherently built into this system, and I think the kind of people, a lot of kind of people funneling into my world, your worldview often will be that, you know, the enemy is the far left and that, like, the real movement is the far right. But I think it's all co-opted by intelligence. Intelligence is all over the universities. But, yeah, you believe what your teachers tell you at university, you're being pushed to the far left. You go online, you believe the narrative spread on 4chan poll, you're getting pushed to the far right. Half the country hates the other half of the country. They want war. They want conflict. And I think, like, what's the ultimate end game? Dead people. Dead Americans. Dead leftists. Dead Republicans. Dead, deady, dead, dead. More room for Blackrock billionaires. More room for elites. The Great Reset, ladies and gentlemen. You know, is there like a pattern? Like, what's up with climate change? Well, people need to die so we can take care of the climate. What's up with the, I don't even know how to say this without getting in trouble. Gay people don't have kids, okay? Like, please, YouTube, just, it's a fact. Did you know that gay people don't have kids? Hence, less people. Everything points to just, they want people dead. They want us to kill each other. They want us to do their work. So the real movement, if you ask me, is, you know, honestly, like, it would play out pretty close to like a real Marxist revolution. It would be class warfare. But I don't know if we should get into that right now. If anything, January 6th was shocking because it's first time the right ever did anything. But granted, it was the FBI leading that charge. Did you know people on hormone therapy since they were 8 don't have kids? That's right. Oh, my friends. Dark times, dark times. This guy just backed half the country's population into a corner. Yeah, and I don't think it's on accident. It's like, it's the meme on 4chan, FBI poking everybody. It's like, hey, do radical domestic terrorism. Everybody freak out, go invade the Capitol. Like, they want us to do that. And then when people finally do that, then they spurg out about it for a year. I mean, it was in 2021, January 6th, 2021. Everybody's still talking about it. It's the great big thing. Oh my gosh, a bunch of LARPers took selfies in the Capitol building. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm trying to underplay it. I wasn't a part of it. Part of the reason I'm getting targeted is because I was telling people not to go that. I was telling people not to go to that shit, dude. Baked Alaska led people into that building. He was let off scot-free. He didn't get in trouble at all. The people who went into that building who aren't freaking Instagram influencer, live streamer, D-tier celebrities, like, they're doing hard time. Baked Alaska, he didn't even get a slap on the wrist, bro. He led people into that building on live stream. And he walked free, baby. He was at the Charlottesville. He was at Unite the Right. He's at every single one of these movements trying to get kids in trouble. And he never gets in trouble. He's some sort of a deep state crisis actor. He's some sort of a Fed. He's some sort of a plant. He's bad news, guys. And I've been saying that the entire time. And that's why I get followed around by weirdos everywhere I go. Yeah. I guess that unity thing went out the window pretty quickly. Funny how he won't condemn intimidation of judges or the person who leaked the SC decision. There are people still imprisoned without trial. Yep. What an embarrassment to Americans in the office of the POTUS. The great unifier. What a joke. I so wish they showed the downvote numbers. Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately news like this why they got rid of the downvotes. back in the day, guys, when like you'd watch a CNN video and the downvotes were just LMAO, like just those infinite downvotes, that hurt, baby. That hurt their feelings bad, and that is the reason YouTube got rid of downvotes. Make no mistake about it. Yeah, everybody points out, oh, you can get this app. Oh, get that. Like, whatever, dude. It used to be you could just see downvotes. I think it's, like, changed YouTube in kind of a devastating way, dude. I mean, just as, like, a drummer. I can tell you that, like, before they disabled downvotes, YouTube drumming was very close to being a meritocracy, man. Like, it was just a lot different. Now you look at a drum video and you don't see the downvotes, and it's a big deal. It changes things, bro. Okay. Next. Man who voted for Trump twice has surprising opinion about Biden's move. Let's CNN it.
New CNN reporting this morning, some Republicans are working on a legal strategy to overturn President Joe Biden's plan for student loan forgiveness that could wipe out up to $20,000 in debt for certain borrowers. CNN's Miguel Marquez has been talking to voters in Biden's hometown of Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Oh, Alex Jones was outside saying, don't go in, it's a trap. I don't remember that, but that's interesting. Alex Jones, baby. I mean, ultimately, I wouldn't really trust him either, but in that particular scenario, it sounds like he was doing the right thing. Let's go.
To see what they think of the plan, and he's with us live now. What are they telling you, Miguel?
Yeah, good morning there, Brianna. Look, we came up here expecting that Republicans across the board would be 100% against student loan forgiveness. What we discovered is that a lot of people are affected by student debt, and some Republicans aren't exactly against forgiveness.
Welcome to the Farmers Market, beautiful downtown Scranton, Pennsylvania.
The market here, the real deal.
There you go, it's called Pennsylvania polka.
Farmers from the area selling what they grow.
What kind of season are you having?
We're having a fair season. It's been dry. It's hurt us a lot on our second crop.
Jim Shurg has farmed here for 50 years. Like many Republicans, he says if one borrows money, they should pay it back.
It's a loan, it's a loan.
Right.
Whether I take a loan to buy the farm, I have to pay it back. They're taking a loan to get an education, they should pay it back.
But some Republicans?
Well, it seems like the country right now is moving towards socialism.
Philip Rosiowski voted for Trump twice. Doesn't like the direction of the country. But on student loans?
Myself, I still have a lot of student loans to take care of for my children.
Rosiowski says he is not against student loan forgiveness and will see if he or his kids qualify.
There has to be some change, and that's what I'm voting for, change.
84-year-old Tom Depew, a moderate Republican and former banker, says debts should be repaid, but views student debt differently.
My daughters all went through college. They have student loans. I like to see it. It helps them, yeah. But all this giveaway and all this free money, somebody's going to pay the price.
A sentiment resonating with working-class voters. For decades, they've drifted toward the GOP. From the early 2000s, exit polls indicate Republicans typically want about 60% of white, non-college educated voters. Democrats, about 40%. That split widened through Obama and Trump. Biden halted it, performing a few points better than Clinton in 2016.
We're almost in heaven. We're almost in Scranton. Almost.
He left. He abandoned Pennsylvania. He abandoned Scranton.
Both parties competing for votes here in battleground PA.
How big a piece of your own personal economy are student loans?
Burger Hype, Burger Planet.
Oh, that's a huge part of my economy, the student loans. I mean, that's what I'm looking to hopefully get taken care of.
28-year-old Tyler Cholvik graduated in 2018. He works downtown Scranton at a local pharmacy. He says today he's carrying about $36,000 in student debt.
Starting a business down the road is something that I'd be very interested in. And I mean, my current debt situation has made that significantly more difficult.
Student debt a factor for just about everyone.
If you're saddled with this unbelievable amount of debt. It's going to set you back.
Local business owner Micah Woodard, 40 years old, recently paid off.
I know what everybody wants to say to that. Well, then don't take out all these loans, or just pay your loans. It's like, yeah, well, that's what happens when you take out loans, is you have a lot of debt. I definitely know where everybody's coming from, man. I mean, the only argument against that is that these loans are predatory, and congratulations if you didn't fall for it. You had helpful parents. You had good people in your circle who said, no, son, these people are vampires, and they want to bleed you dry before you even have a fucking penny to your name. People like me who just ran around in the woods and partied and tried to get laid and was ignored and became a degenerate, I fucking said, LMAO, like, just give me a bunch of money so I can go to some school that's going to ruin my life. And I like the idea of my student loans getting paid off. That sounds pretty good to me. But yeah, is it not fair? A lot of shit isn't fair, bro.
His student loans. His wife is still paying, and their son has just started college and is taking on debt.
And we had that, so those were very large parts of the conversation.
For many here, the spiraling cost of college outweighing everyone's life.
And look, no one on the left or the right that we spoke to here thought that the student loan forgiveness program was really going to affect voters one way or the other. For the midterms, for instance, they didn't think it'd make much of a difference. But in a tight state like Pennsylvania, where races can be so tight, a few votes on the margins can make all the difference. Back to you guys.
Miguel, what about people who don't have student debt? Are they supporting this?
And it affects them. They are even for some level of student loan forgiveness as well.
Miguel, I think Scranton should charge like a journalism tax. They see so many journalists going there trying to get the vibe of the nation. It's so interesting to hear people talk about how this has had a direct impact on their lives. But what you just said, I'm a little bit surprised by that, because from what I've been hearing, if this is good for you, you like it. And if it's not, you take a step back and say, well, is this the right thing? But you're saying there are generations of people there who are looking at this and saying it may make a difference.
That it just might make a difference, that it affects everyone, whether you're a grandparent and you have grandchildren who have debt, and clearly both parties are fighting for voters here. The president was here a few days ago. He's been in Pennsylvania now, 3 times this week. Donald Trump is coming here tomorrow to this area tomorrow. Both sides are fighting for voters, these white working class voters very hard. And across the board, I was really shocked to see that a lot of these voters, even if they don't carry student debt, are concerned about it and willing to give some forgiveness.
Yeah, really interesting. Miguel, thank you for that report live for us from Scranton.
Yeah, I mean, I went to music school. I didn't learn a valuable skill or trade that can make me money to pay off my student loans, dude. I went to a freaking top tier. A lot of people consider Berklee College of Music the most world-renowned music school, like, in the world. Maybe second to Juilliard. That's pretty much the conversation, dude. Stereotypically, is Berklee versus Juilliard. It's for rich kids, bro. It's just, that's been my experience, is that it's for rich kids. I'm from a small town. I was naive, and I just say I'd got quadruple fucked, bro, and basically slam dunked my life into the garbage, and nobody cares, Ultimately, yeah, nobody really cares. Everybody's just like, you made a stupid decision when you were a child, and fuck you. So I think a lot about, man, it would have been crazy if I could have, like, done something cool with my life. And people always say, it's not too late. It's never too late. It's not too late. It's never too late. I disagree, dude. I totally think it's too late. You're better at learning when you're younger, on some level anyway. You just got to do it right the first time, bro. At this point, I'm a philosopher. I'm someone who thinks about the world, and I just think at this point I'm stepping back and observing. You got to do it right the first time, baby. But I think, man, it would have been crazy. Like, I could have been a doctor or a lawyer, or all the different things, all the different life paths I could have taken, try to be like a well-to-do, educated, like, wealthy person who just, has a family and, like, does stuff right. Would have been great, dude. It would have been cool if I didn't massively fuck up my life, like, right out the gate, doing the stupidest thing I could have possibly ever done. But hey, you know what? That's what God had in the cards for me, and I'm rocking it. I get a kick out of a farmer saying, pay your loan, when the Farm Subsidies Act has been handing out money for decades. When it benefits someone else, it's bad. But when it benefits them, they're all for it. And that's pretty much it, dude. Everybody just wants what's good for them, bro. You can pay and never touch the principal. That's the problem. Predatory loan financing. This has to be better explained to the general public. Yeah, but you're learning a useful school in medical school. You're learning a useful skill at law school and medical school. Like, you can actually make money being a doctor. You can actually make money being a lawyer. Like, music school is just everybody trying to figure out how to be famous, dude. Like, yeah, sure, there's ways to make money playing music, but bro, Berkeley's for rich kids, dude. Juilliard and Berkeley are for rich kids. That tuition compared to the value of the skill you're getting, forget about it, bro. I should have done basically fucking anything else, bro. I should have just, like, sat in a room and shit my pants and did nothing, and I would have been better off. People who are willing to help other people out when there's nothing in it for them, those are the true patriots. I'll bet there's a lot of shit slinging going on in this chat, in this comment section. All right, moving on. Breaking down Biden's primetime speech. Here we go.
Let's turn now to our countdown to the midterms with less than 70 days to go. President Biden back in Washington after a blitz through Pennsylvania. The president in a primetime speech in Philadelphia last night framing this election as a battle for the soul of the nation and blasting what he called MAGA Republicans. Let's bring in the very talented congressional correspondent for ABC News, Rachel Scott, who's at the Midterm Monitor. Can I put you on the spot for a second, my Rachel, my friend?
Here we go.
I hear that this is your first time there at the Midterm Monitor, and so there's a lot of pressure, a lot of eyes on you right now, correct?
Go easy on me, Kenneth. Go easy on me out here, okay?
I will. I will set you up with this question here. There's new optimism for Democrats. A new poll shows things are looking up for the president.
Yeah, call it a summer bounce, call it optimism. This is what Democrats want to see here. I want to point you to this poll right here from Quinnipiac University. It shows that the president's approval ratings now sitting at 40%. All right, so still you have the majority of Americans disapproving, right? But of course, we got to pay attention to the trends here. This is up 9 points from July, from when it was sitting at just 31%. Looking at the crosstabs of this poll, you see the president's approval ratings are up on his handling of the economy. We know gas prices are starting to fall. He's also fresh off of this string of victories, legislative victories and political wins, with the majority of Americans approving of his recent decision to cancel student loan debt for millions of Americans. We know that this is going to play big time for a lot of Democrats in these very tight races across the country, Kenneth.
And Rachel, that poll also has some new information about how Americans are responding to former President Trump's dispute with the DOJ over his handling of that classified information.
Exactly, Kenneth, and we are getting a window into what Americans are thinking about this. So take a look at this same poll from Quinnipiac University, Trump's handling of the classified documents. You have 50% of Americans that think Trump should be prosecuted on criminal charges over his handling of those classified documents. 41% believe Trump should not be prosecuted. And then you have 59% of Americans who think Trump acted inappropriately in a way that he handled these classified documents. But again, here, looking at the trends when it comes to Democrats versus Republicans, you have nearly 70% of Republicans, according to this poll, who don't believe the allegations against the former president are very serious at all. So why does this matter? Because after the midterms, then comes 2024. And we know we have an eye on 2024 already. Lots of speculation about whether the former president is actually going to run. I want you to pay attention to this number right here that I'm about to circle. 72% of Republicans, they want to see Trump run in 2024. So even though we have all this controversy and big questions swirling around the former president, you still have the majority of Republicans standing behind him. That is some serious serious loyalty as these questions continue to mount. Now, going over to asking that same question when it comes to President Biden here, take a look at this. You have 67% of Americans who don't believe that Biden should run in 2024. And then when you look at it among Democrats, right, remember that 75% for former President Donald Trump when it came to Republicans? Well, just 47% when it comes to Democrats wanting President Biden to run in 2024, Kenneth.
But Rachel, the question here is, you see that number, but if he did run, would Democrats still vote for him?
And that is going to be the big question. Who exactly is going to rally behind President Biden if he does decide to run? I can tell you here, the way that things are headed right now, President Biden says if he feels the way that he does right now, he does plan to run in 2024. But again, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We still got the midterms first. They are now just 68 days away, Kenneth. And I'll be back here at the board for you guys. But thanks for letting me make my debut with you.
Yes, your debut right here on ABC News Live, and I know you will be instrumental in our special.
I love how there's Americans and then Democrats. So Democrats aren't Americans. Well, it looks like Americans are overwhelmingly saying no.
Report coverage for the midterm elections as well. Rachel Scott, how do you feel about that? I feel your performance was pretty good, but how do you feel?
Listen, it takes a lot here, but I gotta say, the graphics are great. It's actually nice from going out in the field, being back in studio with you, being able to talk around some of these numbers. We spend so much time digging into a lot of this data, so it is really fun to actually be on my feet, standing at the board and talking about it.
Yes, a very good high-tech way to illustrate what what we're seeing out there and what the numbers are showing. Rachel Scott, thank you so much. Your handwriting was beautiful. I loved it. I never doubted you.
I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna work on that.
All right, Rachel. Thanks, friend. Appreciate it.
You know, a theory that I have for the fate of millennials is it's just a story of boomers having faith in the system. Boomers have faith that, like, oh, you know, my kids can watch TV. Television cares about how my kids are. They're learning good values from those shows. They have faith in the public schools. Oh, well, my kids are learning how to take care of themselves and be successful from their public school. Parents have faith in the student loans. Like, oh, well, you know, it's a good idea. It's a good idea to take out those student loans. You know, that university is their ticket. That college degree is their ticket to success. They have faith in the universities. Oh, well, my kid is learning how to be a winner at university when really he's learning about the gender spectrum and the pay-wage gap, gender pay gap. And boomers had an overwhelming faith in the system. And I think a lot of that is pre-internet times, you know. You turn on the news and like, wow, I can't wait to learn objective facts about reality from these arbiters of truth. Anyone who gets a McDonald's drive-through master's or bachelor's degree in communications, they're an objective arbiter of truth. But now we know about things like Operation Mockingbird, when really the intelligence agencies just bought out the news media like in the 50s. Boomers just believed in the system. They think that university professors want what's best for your kids. They think that the student loans are meant to help kids. They think that the public school system is preparing your kids for life. They had faith in the system. Go study hard at your public school, bucko. That's going to be your ticket. Go to university, that's your ticket. You got to go to college however you can, even if you got to take out student loans, that's your ticket. Basically, a lot of boomers were just wrong about everything, and they were saying, go ahead, kids, eat the poison. It's okay. Go ahead, kids, eat the poison. It's okay. Boomers have just about completely failed their children in every way, and at this point, we are like a sacrificial generation. We are being gaslit on a generational level. We were told lies. We were taught improperly. We were handed over to a system that did not care about us, that preyed on us, and ultimately led us to our failure. If you ever feel stupid, just remember there are people that support Joe Biden. If you ever feel stupid, just remember there's people who think democracy isn't a sham. Breaking down Hitler's speech in 4 words, the man is nuts. People don't break down a speech, ABC. We are on to you. Can't you see that? You got it all figured out. Sounds like Tom Baker's a boomer. I know you probably don't agree, but Zionists had control of British Parliament before the 20th century. Yeah, I pay property taxes. They go up about $200 a year so far. Go ahead, kids. Just marry the village bicycle. Go ahead, son. Have a long-distance relationship. Nothing lasts forever, and do as I say, not as I do. The boomer mantra. I mean, I wish I was smarter when I was younger, guys. I wish I had it all figured out when I was 17. I was just trying to figure out how to fucking get some attention from women, dude. And that's probably a big part of the problem. I'll tell you this. I think that school should be separated by gender. That would be a big part of my philosophy for, I think, like, yeah, there should be boys' schools and women's schools. Probably in college, too, and universities. I just, maybe like in elementary school, it can be mixed gender. But, when everybody starts going through puberty, like, you should learn. You should go to school to learn. It's a social competition. It's a social competition, bro. And all the girls in my high school, they all gravitated towards guys who were popping pills and rolling their trucks and going to jail and getting assault charges and MIPs. It's like, wow, so women like idiots. So I'm going to try as hard as I can to be a fucking idiot. And that's what I did. And it didn't really work out so well. You don't have to agree with me, dude. No, I wish I went to an all-boys school. I wish that all there was all-boys schools and all-girls schools. I think that would be way better. I love how they show he's gained 9 points. Hell, I would gain 9 points if I gave $10,000 handouts to buy votes. Okay. Let's see what's up with this article. We might not need to read this whole thing. So this is the New Yorker. Let me get cozy here. I don't want to hurt my back. All right. Joe Biden's "This is not normal" speech on the rising danger of MAGA Trumpists. In a speech on Thursday night, billed as a major address about the battle for the soul of the nation, Joe Biden said the word Trump only twice. The current president may not have mentioned his predecessor's name much, but Biden's speech, as is the case with the rest of his presidency, was all about standing against Trump and the unique threat to American democracy that he and his Make America Great Again supporters pose. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic, Biden said. The Republican Party is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution, he said. MAGA forces are determined to take the country backwards. 13 times, in fact, Biden called out the Trumpists who have seized hold of one of America's two great political parties. In just about the most unsparing terms a president has ever used for political opponents. I guess that Biden, subject of endless laments so recently from Democrats who feared he was reluctant to take on the Trump captive GOP in strong enough terms, is not afraid of going on the attack anymore. I suspect that few will remember Biden's words on Thursday night. However, as much as they will think of the ominous setting, the front of Philadelphia's Independence Hall at night, with dramatic red floodlights as the backdrop for the president, while he spoke in dire terms about the possibility of political violence from the Trumpists who still refuse to concede Trump's 2020 defeat, and who celebrate the violent mob that stormed the Capitol in hopes of overturning it. Just hours before Biden's speech, in fact, Trump himself bragged of giving financial support to some of the insurrectionists who have been charged by the Justice Department, and told an interviewer that he was considering offering blanket pardons to the January 6th defendants. Should he be reelected, in 2024. MAGA Republicans seem to think that the scary setting for Biden's alarming message was somehow beneficial to them, and they soon began sharing images of the dramatic black and neon red scene. I can't believe this is a real photograph, J.D. Vance, the Trump-backed Republican nominee for Senate in Ohio, tweeted. It depicts the president of our nation as he took to the airwaves and spoke about his fellow citizens as if they were sewer rats. Rick Scott, the Republican Senate campaign chief, tweeted the photo and dismissed Biden as a raving lunatic who attacked half the country tonight. Mike Huckabee, the former governor of Arkansas, called it a hate speech. Over on Fox News, Tucker Carlson was very, very angry about the blood-red Nazi background and the Marine Honor Guard in front of Independence Hall, a setting that he termed a complete outrage. Even before Biden spoke, Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader, whose slavish devotion earned him the sobriquet, My Kevin from Trump, gave a rebuttal in which he said that the president should apologize for slandering tens of millions of Americans as fascists. In the inverted logic of Trump world, theirs is the grievance that matters. They are always the wronged party. Storming the Capitol and defying the will of the voters in 2020 was totally fine. But how dare Joe Biden say such nasty things about them for doing so? These howls of complaint might have been fun to listen to from the folks who routinely savage Biden as a wild-eyed socialist out to destroy freedom itself, if what they themselves were doing to the country were not so deadly serious. Alrighty. Let's read these last three paragraphs. Whoa there. Too much of what is happening today in our country is not normal, Biden said early in his speech, a statement that was both correct and wildly understated. That longing for normal is something I have heard often expressed in Washington over these past few Trump-dominated years in American politics, with all the former president's bizarre Oval Office rants and his followers' willingness to torch even the most long-standing American traditions. What scares me most about this moment is that I remember hearing this lament before, in Vladimir Putin's Russia. Arriving in Moscow a decade after the collapse of the Soviet Union, I often heard Russians I interviewed complaining about the upending of their world, with the attendant economic and social collapse in ways that were strikingly similar to the complaints of many Americans today, where we in the West saw Mikhail Gorbachev as a hero who had helped bring an end to decades of communist tyranny. All too many Russians agreed with Putin that the collapse of the Soviet Union, which Gorbachev helped bring about, was a catastrophe. What they wanted, many told me, was to live in a normal, civilized country. A few days ago, Gorbachev died at the age of 91, his dream of Russian democracy having long ago perished. Now, even American democracy itself is teetering. How telling it is that when the President of the United States today speaks of threats to the nation, he is warning not about adversaries abroad, but the danger within. Normal never sounded so good. I wish I could be an explorer and go find my own land. I'm done with people. I feel you, Bobby. Everybody out there who feels that way, which, you know, that's why I kind of enjoyed Hell by the Dashboard Lights chat. Just not, like, making it less incel heavy. Like, not making it so much about, like, success with women. Just being done with people, you know? Like, you don't want to You don't want to be on the radical right bandwagon. You don't want to be on the radical left bandwagon. You don't want to get canceled for whatever reason. You can't compete anymore. That's part of the material pursuit is how much sex are you having, but just you don't have enough shiny objects. You're not fornicating with enough Instagram influencers. You don't think the right opinion about Orange Man. I can definitely vibe with it, man. I wouldn't say I'm done with people. I'm open-minded. I'm open to the idea of still finding cool people. But yeah, man, like I said earlier, it would have been nice if I would have done better with my life. At this point, I pride myself in intellectual. I feel like I'm an observer. I'm just looking at the big picture, man. I'm just watching it all crumble and trying to come up with opinions about it. Everything angers me. This isn't a Christian nation. Go move to Christian land. Well, maybe after we're done with all of you, will be. Let's go. One can only hope. No point in exploring space when we have this already overcrowded finite land here on Earth, right? Well, there's no such thing as space, so nobody's ever going to explore space. NASA's just a sinkhole for money that's clearly not going to what they say it's going to. Yeah, Tom Baker's definitely a boomer. I'm pretty much done with people as well. Solitude is the gift. This is all deliberate, man. They want us to suffer and struggle so that when it's time to live in a pod and eat a cricket sandwich, you'll be grateful. I like spurg out when people do little inconsiderate things in public. A child you thought was not good after your death completely changes and becomes a man of God, and you left him with nothing. Let's go. Okay, guys. Well, for our last segment of the day, Christian persecution. It's something that is spoke of by Christ himself. For if they hate me, why do you think they would not hate you? Do you think that you are better than your Lord and Savior? That's a very paraphrased version of what Christ said. For if they hate Christ, why would they not hate us who are below Christ?
Churches burned in Canada, street preachers arrested for spreading hate speech in England, and people attacked for holding worship services at a park in Portland, Oregon. Christians in the West are now experiencing just a small taste of what their brothers and sisters living in restricted countries have experienced for years. And guess what? It's likely to get worse. But there are some recent rays of light. One day after Antifa activists attacked a group of evangelical worshipers at a park in Portland, Christian singer-songwriter, evangelist Sean Foyt responded, leading a massive rally and praise service at the same location. The day before, when Antifa pelted the Christians with eggs and sprayed mace in their faces, one activist shouted, "Where is your God now?" My answer? He was right there, even though the police were not. I'd tell the Antifa activists that God loves them. He has a better plan for their lives, plans to prosper them and not to harm them, plans to give them a hope and a future. Yes, God was there in the midst of Antifa's unruliness. He was also at that praise service.
See, it's gotten to a point where, like, I don't really get triggered by Antifa like your typical conservative does these days, or a typical far-right guy. But when I see Antifa weaponizing against Christianity, man, I don't like seeing anybody do that, bro. Saying stuff like, "Where's your God?" Oh, man, where are the right-wing death squads when you need them? Am I allowed to say that? I'm just kidding. Just kidding, but yeah. Yep, I don't like seeing anybody bully Christians, bro, and it sounds like that's something that Antifa is, because, yeah, I guess the point is that I don't subscribe to every single conservative point, but once you start attacking Christians, bro, I'm on the opposite side of you.
Following day. Meanwhile, in the United Kingdom, a free speech victory for a cancer survivor, evangelist Hazel Lewis. A London court sided with the 49-year-old who was wrongfully arrested for hate speech while street preaching at the Finsbury Park subway station in February 2020. Ms. Lewis's accusers said she made racist and homophobic comments, but others disagreed. Witnesses were astonished to see her hauled away in handcuffs. District Judge Julia Newton said there was no case against Hazel Lewis. Although some may have found Lewis's words unpleasant, they were not threatening or abusive. Bravo, Judge Newton, you get it. Finally, a UK judge who not only defends free speech, but
I don't think any leftist at this point could ever virtue signal about somebody getting violent over words. Like, oh yeah, like how you guys freaked out when Trump won. How you guys like assaulted everyone who was trying to go watch Trump's inauguration speech. Like, bro, the left really just can't say shit about anything at this point. Like I said, I'm not really a Republican, but yeah, I think considering the actions of Antifa and Black Lives Matter, you guys just need to take a seat, dude. You don't really have a right to speak anymore.
religious liberty as well. Folks, more persecution may be coming.
No, they're not just words. Antifa threw their piss and shit at everybody who was trying to go in to watch Trump's inauguration speech. Take a seat, little buddy.
Let's not hesitate to defend our God-given rights. But we must also realize that God is at work, even when we suffer violent attacks, arrests, or when courts rule against us. The Apostle Paul said in 1 Corinthians 1:18, "The word of the cross is folly to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it's the power of God." So take heart, because like Jesus, we shall overcome the world. Well, that's it today from the Global Lane. Be sure to follow us on the CBN News and NRB channels, social media, and our broadcast affiliates.
Yeah, Antifa assaults people for wearing a MAGA hat, dude. Like, the left can't say anything about anybody being violent. No, it's all of them, dude. Antifa's a bunch of wild, low IQ savages. Chungus, that would be a waste of my money unless I sent them on a wooden raft. Let's wooden raft it. Imagine catapulting someone into the ocean. Let's giddy. Well, I can only imagine, because I never do that, because it's bad. Never violent type. I was joking about the right-wing death squads. I gotta tell you, dude, watching some other people's streams, I find it really baffling what some other channels are getting away with, bro. I've gotten hate speech strikes for the tiniest shit, and I see other people's channels just really like hell by the dashboard light, dude. He is dropping all kinds of racial slurs, and he's just not even worried about it. And it really makes me wonder. It's like, do you have some sort of a green light to say whatever the hell you want on your stream? Because it sure kind of looks that way. Foot soldiers for the bankers in the establishment. That's right. That's what Tom Baker is. All right, moving on. Okay, so yeah, we've kind of decided around here that we're not crazy about this guy, but how Christians should respond if we are persecuted. Let's give him another chance. I watched a little bit of this earlier. I think it's not a bad video.
What do we do if the state starts imposing its progressive values on the church? How do we respond? How do we live if they actually start to persecute us, as many are starting to predict? For your consideration, 10 thoughts, and there could be many, many more. Here's my take on how we should live now that these storm clouds of persecution seem to be gathering towards Christians. Number one, how do you prepare? I don't think you do. You see, when our Bible was written in the first century, the persecution of Christians was...
And now we see Tom Baker contradicting himself. First he says it's just words, bro. And now he's talking about how you should avoid hate speech. Already contradicting himself. Any question of whether or not we're dealing with a 70 IQ knuckle-dragging moron should be answered at this point. He's completely contradicted himself. Any last words before I ban you, bro? You're not smart enough to be here, little buddy.
Was an assumption. That's just the way that it was. Nero wasn't a big fan of Jesus or his followers. He lit them up like torches to light up the city. They were being persecuted. And what are we told to do in the New Testament epistles? Nothing. I mean, we're told to do a lot of things, but nothing in preparation for persecution except to expect it, just anticipate it. And Christian, this is something that we should be experiencing already. And
you're not my bro, dumb shit. Peace out.
Anyone who lives godly in Christ Jesus will be persecuted. The question is not how are we going to respond if we get persecuted, but why haven't we been persecuted yet? We should anticipate this. It doesn't mean that we look forward to it. Oh boy, persecution is here. Look at all the benefits. We're not longing for it, but we should anticipate it. Why? When Jesus showed up, he lived better than we did, and we killed him. Why would we expect anything less? What else should we do if persecution comes? Check your priorities. This is a great opportunity. What am I clinging to? Am I clinging to this world? Am I working with too much fervor, giving all of my passions and energy toward my employment and my employer as opposed to my family, my church, my faith? Check your priorities, as persecution probably is coming our way. Besides, shouldn't we do that anyway? Which actually reminds me that there are good fruits of persecution. Not longing for it, but if we get our priorities straight, wouldn't that be a good thing? What else should we do? Number 4, live peaceably among men, as much as it is in your power to do so. Just mind your beeswax. Do what you're told. Evangelize when you can. If you can, love your neighbor as yourself. Be engaged in your local church and live peaceably among men. Obey the government unless they tell you to sin. Pay your taxes. Do what you're told unless they say, do this sinful thing. We need to obey whether we like it or not. Number 6, that means no civil disobedience. I didn't say you can't gather, that you can't do some sort of assembling with your permits, which we shouldn't need to have, but just the same, that you get together and there are speeches and there are rallies, but no civil disobedience, no breaking the laws because we don't like the trends that we're seeing in our country. We are law keepers, not law breakers. We submit, we do what we're told, we get the permits, and we don't break the laws because we think that somehow...
Yeah, I figured since I picked up a little bit of weed last night, it was appropriate. Rastaman, it comes from the earth, man.
The Constitution overrides the people who are in authority over us, or whatever it is that we do to justify sinning. Not so, Christian. Number 7, focus on your family. No, this has nothing to do with James Dobson. Get your priorities aligned so that you're focusing on your family and on your local church. Let it sanctify you. You see, anytime something hard hits our lives, and in this case, persecution, it should cause us to grow. We must need persecution, otherwise God would not permit it or send it. It is good for us. Everything that God does toward the Christian is good for us, and that means it's not just persecution in a general sense. That means He is ordaining it for you. Now, what can you learn from it? How can you grow in holiness? I can't tell you. That is up to you. But don't miss the sanctifying process that God has for you if storm clouds of persecution gather and start to thunder. And finally, what should we do if persecution comes? Fear not, little flock. Your biggest problem has been solved. Your biggest dilemma has been taken care of. The wrath of God was satisfied by King Jesus when He died on a cross and rose from the dead for you. You are going to inherit eternal life. With that in mind, it will help us to live through the difficulties of this life.
All right, guys. Well, I'll just give a little monologue on that. Christian persecution, man. You know, looking through the videos of this topic, I didn't want to go over some of the horrors. Some horrible things happen, man. There's segments about Christians getting buried alive. China has been horrible to Christians time and time again. Burying Christians alive, putting Christians on crosses in the ocean and having them drown. Guys, facing being beheaded and not denouncing Christ. Yeah, bad things happen to Christians sometimes, guys, because this world does not like the truth, the Logos. This world does not like God, does not like God's Son, it does not like the Word of God. And our wicked human nature is to be a part of the world and to share in that. And, I told you guys, I used to hang out in these metal circles in Boston. I remember when we would walk by Planned Parenthood, there'd be Christians holding signs protesting Planned Parenthood, and I'd laugh at them and mock them, and I'd make death metal growls at them. And I think one time I even grabbed the guy's sign, and I used to take part in it, man. I saw Jesus Camp, the documentary Jesus Camp, when I was in high school, and I immediately became very opinionated, and I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of the opinions I used to have. And once you go into the light, my friends, once you realize the truth of Christ, you need to be wary. And yeah, what he says about not being afraid. Do not be afraid. Sometimes Christians are faced with terror. And if that is your fate, if it is your fate to be martyred, which is something that I've considered for myself, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid, my friends, because those who face persecution for Christ will have treasure in heaven. What about the Jewish persecutions? I think they're doing all right. I think they're doing all right now. We are not to take in the pursuits of this material world. That's right. Jesus Camp and snake pastors are very rare, but plastered over the news if they want to try and make Christians look silly. Exactly. Things like the Westboro Baptist Church. Atheists just don't care. They don't think. They'll point at any given Christian anywhere and just say, hey, look at that guy. That guy's an idiot. Therefore, the Bible can't be true. There are still quite a bit of Christians on the earth. Some of them are intelligent. Some of them are not. I'm not even going to get into how many are intelligent, how many aren't, how many are a shining example of what a Christian should be, and how many aren't. So that's pretty much it, guys. We're headed towards the weekend. Sounds like some of my buddy boyos out there kind of sharing my feelings that they're not really digging the weekends so much lately. I'm still trying to figure out some structure for the weekends. I feel like structure is everything for me lately. Weekends are unstructured, and I feel like that can be problematic. Tuesdays and Thursdays are unstructured. I feel like that can be problematic. I enjoy my podcast days because it really just keeps me going. It keeps my nose to the grind. It keeps me focused. I'm still out here trying to find more structure. I do think that eventually we'll go back to doing the podcast 5 days a week. Maybe when we get back to the main channel, I'll at least, I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. I'm still thinking about how I want to structure things. Still thinking about ways to improve the podcast. I get my main channel back tomorrow. I've said this many times, though. I'm not moving the podcast back there until October. I will put a couple of videos over there, a couple of announcements, community posts, just try to make sure we get everybody from over there over here. Labor Day weekend, baby. Let's go. Peace out, Alpha Kenny. All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. Another one in the books. We're 30 podcasts deep. I appreciate your guys' support. And, yeah, I imagine we'll be doing some streams this weekend. Life just keeps going, baby. 'Tis what it is. I'm going to get some food rocking and rolling. I see a bacon sandwich in my future. Well, yeah, no, because the whole reason is that I'm just trying to avoid hate speech strikes. I could just potentially see a podcast getting hate speech striked. YouTube is like, yeah, they're hard on me, dude. I've noticed it. I noticed that they're harder on me than they are on other channels, for sure. But no, I'm just gonna keep doing the podcast over here for a month. Month is a month. Once that strike wears off, just have one strike over there and start doing the podcast there again. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where I'm at by like the end of this year. You know, all of October, November, December, doing podcasts over there, getting the momentum back on my main channel. I want to grow, boyos. I want to turn this into something special. It's already something special. I want to keep making it more and more special. Keep holding the mirror up to the narcissist. That's what's up. That's what I'm trying to do. Had a bakey sarnie for breakfast. Nice and thick. Smoked back bacon. Good stuff, man. All right, my friends. Well, it's always a pleasure. Next podcast on Monday, and I'm sure we'll be going live this weekend, doing this and that. It should be good. God bless you, my friends. Thank you for being here, and I am out.